Coming to you from beautiful Rhymia Life Advancement Center in Guanacaste, Costa Rica. It's a gorgeous day. I haven't done one of these in 2 or 3 weeks because I've been traveling. I went to see my mother in Pennsylvania, which was a beautiful trip. I spent a month with my son Jerry, 10 days with my son Patrick. I got to see my son Tegan. It was just an amazing block of time, and I really, really, really needed it. A little bit about Rhythmia. What is Rhythmia? Rhythmia is a life advancement center that uses plant medicine, metaphysical teachings, yoga, meditation, breath work to bring about something called a soul merger. And once this soul merger happens, a lot of things in our life change and life becomes more fulfilling. So a little bit about Rhythmia. 13,000 guests have gone through the door. We're 100% booked this week, next week, and for the month of January. Of those 13,000 guests, 95.75% of them stated that they had a life-changing miracle during their stay. 91.88% of them at 6 months say that that miracle is still working in their lives and that this was the week that changed their life. It's an amazing place. Over 2,100 TripAdvisor comments, where in the top 10 resorts in the world for percentage of 5-star reviews per comment. It's it's an amazing place. It truly is an amazing place. And this technology of plant medicine and soul merger, right? Well, with all these things is a program. After that program, people tend to lead more fulfilled lives where they are not the center, but they create a way to become a beneficial presence, and that becomes the center of their life. And that creates a more fulfilling experience of life. So today I wanted to talk about a couple of different things because it's the first broadcast of the new year, and that is a direct relation to time as we know it on planet Earth. And time is our friend and our enemy at the same time, just like many things, right? And I wanted to talk a little bit about it because it's the realization of that, of time in the earth body being finite, not the spirit or the soul, gives way to an awareness that can create more fulfillment in our life. So what do I mean by that? So one of the things that you remember feeling as a kid, that you would never die. You would have that feeling like, I don't understand what time is. I'm just having a great time. I'll never die. Then as we age, we're gifted with the awareness that death is coming. Death to the body is coming. Those of us who are lucky enough to have done plant medicine have experienced death and gotten away from the fear of it. But we're still left with the consequence of it. And what do I mean by that? See, the fear can leave, but the consequence is still there. And the consequence is that of a wasted life. So depending on your religion, your religious beliefs, your worldview, your view of spirituality, some people believe that there are many lives. Some people believe that there are not. I know that my spirit goes on after my body dies because I've left my body on so many different occasions doing plant medicine that you can't tell me because I know, I have gnosis of it. And that's a great gift. So knowing that, and knowing that the spirit goes on and having seen past lives and things like that, we want to make the most of every life. Now, of every lifetime. And when I say the most, there's a couple of different things. Number one, if I'm coming back here to planet Earth, I want to leave it better than I found it. Just like if I was borrowing a car from a friend, I would want to leave that car to return that car in better condition than I found it, especially if I knew I was going to use it again, right? So that's the one thing that should be an overriding thing. If you believe you only have one life, then that's even a better reason to make the most of it by becoming a beneficial presence on the planet and giving that charity to future generations. That's a great reason. Now, how can we define and find our life's purpose, whatever that is, without actually coming and doing plant medicine? The easiest way is to do a programmatic week here. It is. And how do I know it? Because 13,000 people have told me that. And that's not a figure of speech. It's real numbers, right? So that is the easiest way. What is another way? Another way, if you're a meditator or someone who has the ability to focus, is that to focus for a day and imagine that this was your last day on earth. Now, how would you feel? If you really knew, and this is a great New Year's gift, if you can get alone and say, okay, today is my last day on earth, let me take stock of what I've achieved. Let me take stock of who I've become. Let me take stock of what I set out to do and where I'm at. Let me take stock and really feel like it. Well, the one thing that I know is that you're going to have this great sense that you didn't spend enough time with your family. I know that. The second thing that I know is you're going to look at your life and think, did I reach my potential? Did I reach my potential? Did I reach my potential? Was this the top of my potential? And I guarantee you, and I can't guarantee you, I can say with some 99.99% assurity that you haven't. Now, in that moment, you got to stay with me. In that moment, you say, well, how, if I had done it different, how would I have done it differently? And what would I have done? And how would I be feeling about that now? In other words, if you gave everything, every day that you were given this breath of life, and you really tried beyond all trying, and you made a difference, and you conquered some of your own human tendencies, and you really became a beneficial presence, and you really did it, I guarantee you that you're letting go of the body on that day would be an easier thing. Now, how you vision that in that moment should be where you're going next. How you vision what you should have done, what it would have looked like had you achieved your full potential, should be what it is in the future. So that right there is the equivalent of a post-soul merger experience, that you got to see that where you were, but you got to see you in your wholeness, how you would have been a beneficial presence on the planet. And then that becomes your lodestar. That now, on the first few days of 2023, becomes your goal. Now it gets interesting. Because I may have motivated you to do this, what I call a stock take or an analysis of where I'm at. I may have motivated you to do it, but now you can't rely on motivation to get there. You can't. Because if you rely on motivation to get there, this is the thing, and a lot of people are all crazy on the internet over this Andrew Tate guy and all this stuff, but what in the middle of the rhetoric of all that, of what he says and these other guys say, there are truths that are clear and clear. And those truths are, you cannot rely on motivation to get there. If you rely on motivation, so let's say this, because we know from past classes that you have a 10 times greater chance of success simply by writing that down. So this is my lodestar. This is how I become a beneficial presence. I reverse engineer it to the things I have to do. I make a deal with myself that I'm not going to rely on motivation. I'm going to rely on self-agreement. I'm going to create an agreement with myself that nobody can take me out of. not my mom, not my dad, not my girlfriend, boyfriend, husband, or wife, not my school teacher, not the neighbor next door, not anybody. And in that clarity, when I make that agreement, I become as that lodestar is in that moment. The rest is details. The rest is just details. That's what has to happen to get there. Now, when I make that agreement, I have to realize I'm making a 10-year commitment. When I make that agreement, I have to realize that it's going to be harder than anything I've ever done. When I make that agreement, I have to realize there's going to be more benefits in it for me than I could ever imagine. And then I have to break it down into pieces and know what I have to do starting today, right? Then when I make that agreement, what happens is certain days, let's say that agreement requires me to get up and pray. And when I say pray, I'm talking about more like spiritual mind treatments, positive reinforcement prayers, a different kind of praying, but prayer or regular prayer or meditation or breath work or whatever I have to do. I'm going to structure my day. And usually there's diet and exercise in that as the platform to begin my day. When I make those things, I realize when I'm making them that 50% of the time I'm not going to want to do any of it. And I say that as truth because I have my own thing that I do every morning, and it takes about an hour. Takes about an hour, and that includes prayer and exercise, right? And I would say on about half the days, I don't feel like doing it. On about half the days. So there are in this thing, my way of becoming a beneficial presence in the year 2015 was I gave a commitment to create a spiritual center that did this kind of thing for other people. And I'm still only 7-ish years into it because that was just the start of it. I didn't buy this place and didn't open until 2016. It was our birthday the other day. We turned 7. So I'm at the 70. I'm 70% of the way to where I want to go. But when you make that commitment to do this kind of thing, and I'm going to tell you, this is a medium-sized kind of beneficial presence. There are large sizes that are more or less important, and there are small sizes that are more or less important. So don't take mine as that's what you got to do. I mean, hey, want to become an artist, a dancer, a musician, a business owner, a community leader, a public speaker, whatever it is that elevates this thing, that elevates the collective, the beneficial presence on the planet, is your thing. Now, it doesn't matter how obscure it is. I'm going to tell you the story of a plumber. And this is, I've gone into it before, but I met a plumber, and the plumber, I thought, and I met this plumber in first class, and I thought, man, that's pretty amazing that this guy has done it. So in this story though, he loved plumbing. He loved plumbing, loved it. Next thing you know, he has 6 huge plumbing stores, and the guy's making, excuse me, millions of dollars a year. So don't worry about what it is, what it looks like, if it makes sense. Don't worry about that. And if you don't think a plumber is a beneficial presence on the planet, you never had a pipe break. So what I'm going to tell you is this: is that when you get that clarity and you know that thing, that you reverse it back and do the daily and keep those agreements with yourself. As you start keeping those agreements with yourself and as they become unbreakable, so that your agreements to you are unbreakable, all of a sudden others start having the confidence in you to get behind you in the quest for your thing. And that becomes a vibration. It's a vibration. And now when we start talking about vibrations, there's so many people who know so much more about it than me. But there's these multiple signals that you're sending out all the time. And one is a safety vibration. So if you ever notice, and this is interesting, that there are people who say nothing that you walk by and you know that you're safe. There are people who say nothing that you walk by and you know that you're not. So you're emanating a safety vibration. What is the greatest thing to get someone else to feel safe? To honor your agreement with yourself. Whew. All of a sudden, why? And this is all known but unseen, known but unspoken. Why? Because if I honor my agreement with myself, I have a real good chance of not lying to you. A real good chance of honoring my word to you, right? So, and that goes into another piece of this, that as we're doing this thing, as we are in complete honor of ourselves, meaning I don't care if I had too much to drink. I don't care if I didn't sleep. I don't care if the baby was up all night. I don't care if I got in a fight with my husband. That next morning, I'm going to do these things. And I'm going to go back to where my lodestar is, because perfect souls on the planet. I'm going to say that there are probably an extreme few amount of highly elevated souls, like highly. There's not many Michael Beckwiths. There's not many really like amazing saints walking the universe. But there are millions and millions of people making this becoming a beneficial presence on the planet. There's millions and millions of people making this a much better place, right? So do not wait for your personal development to catch up with your lodestar. If you do that, I hate saying this, if you don't die unexpectedly, you're going to die with so much regret. So don't wait till you think you're good enough to do this thing. I mean, if I waited for that, there would be no Rhymia. I would shut it down today, because I'm never good enough to do this, right? Do you understand what I'm saying? So if you wait for that, that's just an excuse. It's a way for you to get out of the commitment with yourself. And this thing goes back to, there's a chance that you might go on this path and you may never get to that thing. In other words, my vision of Rhymia, of 600 houses and multiple centers within this center, and this beautiful piece of land may never happen during my time. But the time that I spent working harder than anybody would be willing to work to get that was time of fulfillment, of satisfaction, even if it was treachery. And there are times where this is going to be treachery if you're going to do that. And I mean that's from raising a child, because some of us, our lodestar is raising a really good family. If you think that raising a child is without days of wanting to give up your nuts, if you think that starting a little business without days of wanting to give up your nuts, if you think there's some perfect idyllic marriage out there that's going to have you where you never want to give up your nuts, right? So knowing that that's part of the landscape, these agreements with ourselves is what becomes the most important. And in these agreements, we want to have a tendency to not say things we don't mean and not go along with things we don't agree with. Because you know why? It's the craziest reason. Because they waste time. Saying things I don't mean and going along with things I don't agree with are just taking me off where I'm going, and they're wasters of time. Now you don't have to be a jerk about it, right? You don't have to be a jerk. You can say, hey, sometimes it doesn't require anything to say. If somebody is saying something that you don't agree with, you don't have to say, I don't agree with it. You just don't agree with it. But to go along with something you don't agree with, that's where you have to say or opt out or whatever, not because it's a sin or this, because it's a waste of time. And I want to tell you, this year I turned 60. I never thought I would live to see 60 years old. And the craziest part is I'm healthier than I think I've ever been, even in my 20s. I'm stronger, I'm healthier, and I'm more focused, right? So all things being equal, I got a ways to go. But I am very cognizant of the time on the clock, very cognizant. And I wish I were more cognizant of that when I was younger, because that would even be better. But I'm aware now. And as of this talking, you're aware now. So we want to go back to these things. And when you do this, like I'm going to tell you, there is pain whatever way you go. There's pain in saying to this thing that you don't wait till you're 100% right for, to this beneficial presence agreement. There's pain in getting there. But imagine the pain in dying and not having tried, not having given it your all, not having fallen in love, not having given of everything to something. Man, that's real pain. That's real regret. That's real remorse. And that is my message to you for today, is to do things, because this is, when people talk about being mindful, they always assume it's this murky, spiritual, hard to quantify thing. I'm not talking about that. There is that, but I'm talking about being earthly mindful. And that is being aware of the time on the clock. That is being aware that I'm going to die. That is being aware that everything that I love in my life is going to be ripped from me in some way, shape, or form between now and the day that I die. And that's okay, because I'm going to pick this thing and I'm going to become a beneficial presence on this planet, in spite of the hurt of being the hurt of being a human. In spite of it, now we're cooking. That is the gift of the gift, right? Because you want to talk about double indemnity and multiple morbidities. Take a look at this. If you know this, if you really know that everybody who you've ever loved on this planet, everything you've ever loved doing on this planet, every material thing that you've ever been attracted to on this planet is going to be systematically ripped from you, either all at once when you pass, or piece by piece. And to know that is the entropy of life, to know that is the course of life, and then to add to it the regret of not having tried to become a beneficial presence while you're here. Wow. Tell me how that must feel. Tell me what that last day must look like. And what I'm here to do, like for me and for others who are watching, is to be aware of that, so that at least we can have one piece of that on the end. You know what it is? I gave it my all, in spite of my human weaknesses, in spite of my idiosyncrasies and things that aren't right about me. I gave it everything, and I tried my hardest. That is the beauty of that. That is the beauty. Now, when is the time to, people say, well, when is the time to quit? When is the time to quit? There is no time to quit. You might find someone, let's say you start a business like this, and then you might find someone who runs that better than you, and that's the time to pass a baton. But then you'll be in something else. You'll be in something else, right? So there is no time to quit. There's never a place where you're going to get to and you're going to say, well, that's it. I did it all. I don't care if you're 80 years old. I don't care if you're 90 years old. You can talk to young people and help them with this process. There is always more to do. Uh-huh. All right. Well, listen, let's have a really good, strong, positive 2023. And by strong, I mean one where we're going towards this thing. Uh-huh. Let's do it. And I will talk to you next week.